Welcome to the next video on Total Grant Solution. In this video, we will concentrate on the module called Report Builder. I'm going to give you an overview of different reports that are available in Report Builder, and then we'll do a live system demo where I'll show you how to set up those powerful queries so that you can go ahead and run them, export them to Excel, and do all sorts of analysis with them. Currently, all queries are available to all users, regardless of user role. So whether you're data entry only, whether you're a manager, whether you're internal to OEWD, all of these queries should be available to you. You'll see when we log into Report Builder that there are three separate tabs that are available. There's one called Custom Reports, there's one for canned reports, and there's one for agency documents. We'll take a look at all three of these. In the custom reports, that's where we're going to focus. That's where you will select a query, select your filters, and then you can go ahead and run the reports. Generally, you're going to want to export these to Excel for analysis. In the canned report section, there's one canned report that's in there that will be helpful to you right now. There may be ones built in the future, and these can be then either printed or saved to PDF. And then agency docs is the last area, and that's where you'll find an archive of all the support documents that you've uploaded, including your insurance documents, your invoice support items, and anything that you've put into the agency info area of TGS. Within custom reports, here are some of the popular queries that you may want to take a look at. Again, there may be more built in the future. So if there are certain things that you're looking for, please give your grant coordinator a call and they can help you find the best query or can request a new one for you. So on this screen here are some that you may find helpful. The Payment Approval Status Report is really the most granular report available right now. It will give you the entire history of your invoiced amounts by line item, date, fund, and have a bunch of information there for you. There are a bunch of filters available, so whether you're running this as an internal OEWD person and maybe you only want to look at a certain year, or maybe you only want to look at a certain portfolio, you can narrow that down. If you're running this as an agency, just wanting to look at your own history, you can narrow it down by project or by year and find some powerful information to analyze in that one. Salary line item details query is another one that you may find helpful. So that will give you detail on invoice staff, including the amounts, the staff name, per hour, salary rate, month, project, etc. So essentially everything that you put in as an agency about your salary details, you can pull back out of the system with this query. Negotiated budget line items, also another helpful query. So that will give you your detailed original budget information in Excel format. And then under that line are three additional ones that are probably more helpful for internal OEWD staff. There's work plan activity by projects, which will give you a summary of agencies, projects, and fund sources. So you can run that across an entire portfolio. The project and expenditure summary gives you again a summary of the agency's projects and fund sources, but this also gives you total spending by project. And then agency insurance information. So if and when you want to use the system to track whether or not agencies have uploaded and are maintaining the correct insurance information, this is the query that's available for that. Canned reports. So as I mentioned earlier, there's really only one canned report that's available that is helpful in the system right now, and that is the monthly program and cost report. This is the same report that generates automatically when you as an agency submit your invoice. But if for some reason you didn't save it at the time that it popped up, or you want to go back and look at it later, that will be in the canned report section of Report Builder. So you can always generate that later on. Agency documents, here's a screenshot of that. Again, we'll go into the live system here in a minute and I'll show you how to get to these. but that is going to be where you'll find your uploaded invoice support documents and your agency-wide uploads. So again, if you're uploading your insurance documents, maybe your organizational background documents into the agency info area in TGS, that's where you'll find all those, as well as every document that you upload for 7C Squared as support to an invoice. Those are all then available in the agency docs area of Report Builder. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the system and show you how to use Report Builder Live. Okay, so we've switched over to a web browser now, and we have pulled up the Total Grant Solution master logon page. I'm going to go ahead and use an agency login. So I'm going to pretend as if I'm an org admin at this sample agency. So I'm going to sign in. And then from the main page here, what I want to do is I want to pick Report Builder from the switcher box. Click Go beside it, and that will launch Report Builder. Now, as I had said in the PowerPoint presentation, there are 3 sections of Report Builder. You'll find the 3 tabs right here at the top left corner. So I have Custom Reports, which is what launches automatically. I have Canned Reports, and I have Agency Documents. We're going to come back to Custom Reports and do that last. So, take a look at Canned Reports here. So in the first drop-down, you can choose a report. There are several available both in the custom area and in the canned area that really don't have much data. And the reason for that is currently we're only using TGS to track and report on financial information. If we were, however, using it to also track our clients, then much more of these reports would work. So really, again, in the canned reports area, it's the monthly program and cost report that's available that you want to focus on. And then because I am logged in as an agency specific person, so as if I'm an executive director, for example, it will only give me the option of my agency here. If I were logged in with an internal to OEWD logon, here's where I could go ahead and select which grantee I want to take a look at. So for folks who are viewing this that are internal, that's where you're going to make that selection. And then here is where we're going to pick a contract number. So which project do we want to take a look at the funding for? So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this 1513 contract because I know that there's a July invoice that was submitted against it. And then it's going to ask me which report month I want to take a look at. So again, you're probably going to be pulling these historically because you've already saved the majority of them as you submitted your invoice. So what you want to do here is just go ahead and pick any any day within the month for the report that you want to run. So I had said earlier, I know that there's a July 2017 invoice that's been submitted against contract 1513. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that July invoice. So I'll pick July here, July 2017. And just as habit, I always pick the last day of the month. And then I'll go ahead and click the arrow to show the report. Now the report will go ahead and generate in an additional window here. And you can see, again, this is a report that is designed just to be saved or printed. It is not one that is designed to be exported into Excel. Though that payment approval status report will give you all of this information in Excel for the entire project if that's what you want to do. Okay, so this report gives you just a summary of what was submitted by line item. It gives you all the line items for the project, including ones that maybe weren't actually billed against for that month, so that you can see an overview of the entire balance by line item and the balance of the project. If this project had multiple fund sources, then you would see multiple areas afterwards where this would break down by how things were charged by fund source. You can see, though, this project only has one fund source, general fund, non-city build, all activities, so there's only one detail area for this one. So once I pull this up, I can very quickly use the links over here to print, or I can print to PDF, which essentially allows me to save it from here. And that's all that there is to the canned reports section. So go ahead and close that pop-up window, and let's take a look at the agency docs. So again, in the agency docs, this is where you're going to mainly find historical information. So anything that's been uploaded by your agency against your agency information tab, things like organizational background, insurance documents, things like that, gives you the upload date, and then gives you a link to actually launch the document here. So all you have to do is click on whichever one of these that you want to review, and it will launch in a separate window. At the bottom then, you can see that I have a bunch of uploaded documents as well. And so like for that project that we just looked at, 1513, you can see that I have one uploaded document for that July invoice, and it's right here. So again, for any reason, if I want to go back and look at these individually, I can just click straight on there, and it will go ahead and launch that for me in a separate tab in my browser. And then I just close the separate tab, and I'm back to my agency documents. It's that easy to go back and look at my previous information. So if your grant coordinator, say, rejects an invoice to you and says the support documentation that you uploaded was not enough, or there wasn't any support documentation, this is the screen where I would go. You can delve back into that invoice through 7C², and that's where you will need to go if you want to upload or change your documents that you've uploaded. But just as a first look, I would probably go to agency documents here because it's a little bit easier, a little quicker to access. See what you've already uploaded that was insufficient, and then go find the new documents. And then once you've done that, then you can go into 7C², navigate back into that specific invoice, and adjust what you've uploaded. The last area of Report Builder that we're going to take a look at is that Custom Reports area. There are screenshots available if you find it easier to follow instructions that are written versus the video. Just ask your grant coordinator for those. So here we're going to navigate back to the Custom Reports tab by just clicking on it. And there's one step that you will have to set up just once to create a report, and then you can run that report every time that you log in. You can change filters after you set up the report. Okay, so you'll notice here in my existing reports window, I only have one that exists. So again, the step that I'm going to show you right now is going to create more existing reports for me up here based on the queries that I have down here. Just like with the canned reports, there are a lot more queries that have information that doesn't pull from the system. And again, that is because right now OEWD is only using parts of Total Grant Solution. And so any queries that were built for other agencies, for other jurisdictions, things like that, they exist down here, but they're not actually going to pull any information for you. If you need a query that you don't think exists, there's certain analysis that you want to do, that you're not quite sure what to look at to do that, just contact your grant coordinator, and they can either help you identify an existing query that will pull those fields for you, or they can request a new one from the developer. Okay? All right, so the first step that I'm going to do, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the salary item details query into a new report for myself so that I can pull it. Let's say monthly, I want to take a look at that. So I'm going to go here to the reports window. I'm going to click new, and here's where I'm going to set up that report. So the report type, I always set things up as data tables. That allows me then to pull them as Excel documents in the end and export them to Excel so that I can do my own pivot tables and things like that. Report name, you can name this whatever you want. This report will only sit within your own version of TGS under the logon that you've logged in under. Okay, so if you want to share this with other folks on your staff, you can do that, but they'll have to set it up under each of their profiles as well. Okay. Usually, the way that I name my reports, I name them what they are, and then about when I set them up. That way I can track if a query has changed. Maybe I pulled this query, it didn't have quite what I wanted, and I requested from my grant coordinator that they add a couple more fields. Okay, so then I will know when I go back in later that maybe the January query isn't the one that I want anymore. Maybe I want to start running the March report because the March one is the one that came back updated for me. Something like that. But again, here, report name, name it whatever you want so that you can find it later again. And then you click next, and what you'll see is these tabs will open up as we click next. So query type. So this is where I'm going to tell it which of these queries are now available here, which of the queries I want this report to essentially use to run against. So I'm going to use the salary line item details. And again, if you look back to the PowerPoint at the beginning of this presentation, or you talk to your grant coordinator, you can find out which queries work best for what you may want to know. I'm going to click Next. Field types. So this now shows me all the fields that are available in that query. Again, my intent is I'm going to run this, I'm going to export it into Excel, and then I'm going to use Excel to do the analysis. So I want to go ahead and include all the query fields. I don't want to limit my report to only certain fields here. If I wanted to limit myself, what I would do is I would select only certain fields by holding down the Control button on my keyboard and then scrolling through and only making certain fields blue. Again, though, I want to pick all these fields. So I'm going to select the first one. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard and then the down arrow key and go ahead and highlight all of these so that they'll all be included in my query. Once I've gotten to the end of the list, I go ahead and let go of the Shift button. Everything is still blue. I click Next. And then here in the Create tab, it's basically giving me a summary of what I've done in the previous tabs. So yes, I requested a data table. I called my new report Salary Detail January 2018. I didn't leave any additional report comments for myself in that Report Info tab. The query that I'm using is Salary Line Item Details, and these are all the fields that I selected. So these are all the fields that are going to now show up in my report. I'm going to go ahead and hit Submit. And what's going to happen is we will now see that I have a second report over here available in existing reports. Now this will not go away unless in the future I go ahead and hit Edit and then delete it. So when I log in tomorrow, I can go ahead and run this report on tomorrow's data if that's what I want to do. Okay. So the next steps are going to be to actually go ahead and pull this report and set up the filters how I want to set them up. So you can see report exists. It's using this query. Now down here is where I'm going to view the report. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click View Report. Report type gives me information from what I just set up. View Report is where I have the ability to set different filters. Okay, so if you're running this as an agency, obviously you're going to set different filters than if you were going to run this as an internal OEWD staff person. As an agency, you're going to have far less data than if you're going to run this as an OEWD staff person. So you'll only see the data that's available to you based on your role. So for example, if you have only an agency level login, you only see details about information submitted by your agency. But if you have a staff logon, then you can see salary details across a portfolio. Okay, so let's say I can either run this completely open, so picking no filters at all, And then what it will do is it will give me all the information in the system for this query for all projects for all years. Again, just for my agency because I'm logged in as an agency. Or I can choose maybe I only want to look at a certain person, a certain program. I have names, I have hours, I have last name available. All of these are very powerful filters. So let me show you quickly how powerful the filters can be on a simple report like this. Okay, so we know that we don't have a whole lot of data in this sample agency for salaries, but we do know that we've got some. So let's go ahead and take a look at, maybe my question is, I wonder how much my program director, whose last name is Big Bird, or last name is Bird, how much I've charged for them already this year. Okay, so I'm going to go to last name, I'm going to select the filter, and you'll see now what it's done on the right hand side here is it has shown me all the options in the system that I've put in for last name. So, and it has also now dropped last name into the filter down here. Okay, so in my example I said I want folks with the last name of Bird. So down here is where I'm going to build my logic argument. So by hitting select filter, choosing this, I've dropped this down here. So I want last name. I'm going to select the equals. And then from the right hand side over here, the filter values, I'm going to select Bird. And then I'm going to click filter value to drop it down into this box. Okay. So now what we've done is we've built the argument last name equal to Bird. If that wasn't what I wanted, I could hit reset. I could try a different combination entirely, or I could hit reset and I can run this wide open, which is what I'm going to do next. Okay, but for right now, let's just look at what I've built since the beginning of time for my person with the last name of Bird. Okay, next tab, labels. Go ahead and ignore that. If I were going to make mailing labels or something like that, this is where you could generate those. Really, I'm going to go to the export tab, and I want to go ahead and export this into an Excel spreadsheet. If this were a giant report, I may have more records than 1 to 5,000. Okay, so if I were, say, running this report completely wide open for all portfolios, and I had an internal to OEWD staff log on, I might have to download this into multiple spreadsheets. And I would see that because I'd see a 1 to 5,000, then I'd see a 501 to 10,000, etc. Okay, so I always check this here if I know that I'm running a big report, again, because I may need to download this into separate pieces. This one, though, very simple. So it's just got the 1 to 5,000 option. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit export. So it's gone ahead and dropped it down into my tray here. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And what you'll notice is I have extra protection set on my Excel so that it reminds me when I'm opening things from the internet that I want to make sure that they're safe. So you may or may not see this pop-up message when you try and open reports yourself. But again, I've put that extra protection on mine. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, I do want to open it. And then additionally, I've got a protected view up here. So I'm going to have to hit enable editing in order to move any of the data around if that's what I wanted to do. So you can see what the system's done is it's gone ahead and given me a report in Excel with headers equal to all those different data elements that I asked for when I set this up. And then it's filled in the data for me for everyone with the last name Bird, including the project that they worked on, the hourly rate, how much was billed for them, the project name, all the way across. Okay. If I wanted to, I could throw this into a pivot table and do some analysis there, maybe some charts and graphs, something like that. So This is because when I pulled up my filter, I said I only want people with the last name equal to Bird, right? Okay, so let's take a look. What happens if I go back to Report Builder and under the View Report tab, maybe I want to see my whole universe. So I don't want to just look at people with the last name Bird. All I need to do is go back here, hit Reset, clear out those filters, then go back to my Export tab and export. Now, again, clearing out those filters may mean that I get a whole bunch more records, so you want to check here, make sure that you know whether or not you need to download this in pieces, okay? But again, this is just my own agency's salary report, so it's not very big. So I go ahead and hit Export again. It's dropped the new one down into the tray here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. Again, I get my special message. And yes, I want to go ahead and open. And now we have a bunch more line items, right? Because now it's not restricting it to only the last name Bird. Now I've told it, go ahead and run me the entire open report so that I can see all of my salary line item details for my agency specific. Okay, so that's how the filters work. You can either use the filters within Report Builder itself, or you can run reports wide open and then use Excel to filter down as you need to. So now I'm going to go ahead and close my Excel spreadsheet, go back to Report Builder, and go ahead and close this little window here. And you'll notice my salary detail report still exists over here. Okay, I can go to other tabs, I can go to other modules, and when I come back, that will still exist in my existing reports. That's the piece that I said you only have to set up once. So you only have to create a report once, and then it'll be here for you to view after that point. Okay, so if I want to view it, I've come back, maybe I've now submitted a new invoice, I come back, I select that existing report here, I go back to View, and then again set your filters how you want to and go ahead and export your report through the Export tab. Okay, the last tab here that's called Scheduler, if you find that your report is huge, like let's say that I've logged in as an internal D-OEWD staff member, I'm pulling the payment approval status report for the entire quarter, which is super detailed and has many, many line items. What it may suggest to me is it may suggest when I choose those filters, it'll say down here, the report is very large. Do you want it? Put it in the scheduler. If I click yes, what that'll do is that'll allow the system to run the report overnight. And then what'll happen is in my email in the morning at about 3 a.m. when the system's quiet, there'll be an email generated with a link to that Excel report. So it's just an easier way to allow the system to schedule things when it's less busy, those more intense queries. And that's all there is to Report Builder. It can be a little daunting because there are a lot of queries to choose from. But again, if you take a look at that PowerPoint, there are really only probably 5 or 6 that you're going to use very often. And in addition to those, contact your grant coordinator and they can help you figure out the best query to get the best information for what you want.